Good morning and welcome. My name is Dave Berger and this is my interpersonal communications project. I'd like to start out with an introduction. I did 21 years in the United States Air Force, and during that time I was a security policeman, a trainer and instructor, and a supervisor for over 400 people. After retirement in 2004, I became a case manager counselor for the state of Montana in the TANF program, where I did welfare compliance counseling and employment services. And then I went out to Aware Incorporated, where I was the director of adult mental health services for a year in charge of group homes, where I had 34 employees. I'm currently a civil servant. I work at Malmstrom Air Force Base, and I am the transitions manager. And as the transitions manager, I provide counseling services for all personnel when they are departing the service. I'm responsible for ensuring they are compliant with their VA requirements and they're aware of their veterans benefits. Next slide. When I did my behavioral blend test, I was a CS for what is expected of me, and then I was a CSD for this is me, which says that I'm an extrovert. I'd like to start out first off by kind of defining what interpersonal communications is. According to our textbook reading, interpersonal communications is the type of kind of communications that happens between people, involves talking and listening, and it maximizes the presence of the person in the conversation. Next slide, please. Some of my barriers to intercommunications are the differences, knowing the differences between what a briefing is and what teaching is. As a military person, I was responsible for conducting briefings, and now after I've been in the teaching environment, I realize that briefings are relatively short, to the point, provide information. As we're teaching is where you take your subject and you try and convey it to your students so that they understand and are knowledgeable of whatever it is you're trying to teach them. Another barrier that I have to interpersonal communications was my lack of self-disclosure. As a military person, I was always trained to only give the bare essential information, and now I'm finding out that if I disclose to the people that are transitioning when I'm conducting my counseling sessions and classes, and I let them know specifically my background, and I can kind of put them at ease knowing that I was one of them and that I actually went through the process relatively within the last few years. And it kind of builds this trust and rapport between us, because now I'm not just an outsider telling them about things. I'm actually a person that's been through it. Another one that I have is lack of empathy. This has been a big problem for me. I was 16 when I came in the service. I did 21 years. My entire adult life was in the military, and in the military we have certain things that we don't do. One of those things is we don't become close to the people that work for us. We are their leaders. We cannot afford to have a personal relationship with them. And truthfully, in order to get the mission done, we weren't able to kind of be on their side. We had to have the mission in focus. One thing that I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to really work on my empathy and putting myself in the shoes of the other person. Lack of outside or having outside distractions is another big issue that I have with communications. Being in the digital internet age that we are, everyone's always connected, cell phones. I'm required to have a cell phone because I'm a part of the emergency response team here on base as the hostage negotiator. And I'm also required to have the phone at times because I'm the Air Force aid officer to help with emergencies, financial emergencies or whatnot with some of our airmen. So I have to kind of work on those outside distractions. And then another problem that I have is I hear what they're saying, but I didn't realize that I wasn't listening to what they were saying. And that's one thing that this class brought into my focus, was the fact that I need to listen, not just hear, but listen to what the people are saying to me. And then finally, time constraints. There's only 2 of us that work in this office, and we're seeing hundreds and hundreds of people a month. And I limited the time that we spent with each person to about 10 to 15 minutes per day. I've decided is what we're going to do is we're going to expand our time constraints. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Next slide, please. So what did I have to do to understand what my weaknesses are? First off, I know the difference between briefings and teaching. I already kind of touched on that a little bit. Briefings are short and to the point. They have their place, but not within the arena that I'm currently serving in. I have to really revert back to the teaching mode so that I can spend more time and build rapport with my students. Teaching is a very lengthy process, and it encourages them to learn versus telling them what they need to know. Next slide. My lack of self-disclosure. According to our textbook, relationships grow and can develop between two people and become more open about themselves with each other. I'm realizing this now more and more as I kind of have been separated from the service a little longer in time. I need to really work on explaining to them and letting them know that I am one of them and I've done what they're doing, and I can really help them if that's something that they so desire. According to one of the journals that I read, self-disclosure is communication behavior which has the potential to either greatly enhance interpersonal relationships, is what I'm going for, or if you put too much out there, it can surely disrupt the relationship. So I've got to work on that balance between what's enough and what's not enough. So that's something that working with this class, I'm really trying to diligently work on. Next slide, please. Another one of my issues that I have and the barriers I talked about earlier was my lack of empathy. And I kind of was justifying that because of me being an NCO. I've got to stop that. I have to start building a rapport and letting these airmen know that I'm on their side and I'm there to assist them versus trying to hurt them. According to another one of the peer journal articles that I read, empathy is basic in social learning. It's derived from previous learning. It will enhance the conversation when I can show some empathy. So that's one thing that I plan on really working off of. I need to also understand, next slide please, that everyone has a different life experience. And not everyone's suited for the military. So I have to work on that and the knowledge that people are out there that have different things that I am. And I want to work on just not hearing what they say, but listening. According to our textbook, I need to understand the meta message. What are they really trying to say to me when they come and they talk to me? Not just what they're saying on the surface. I need to work on what they're truly trying to say to me. And I want to become an active listener and participate in the conversation and not direct it, which is a real big change for me. Next slide. Understanding the differences between people, not the briefings and make it short and to the point. I want to teach them. I need to understand that. I need to fully introduce myself. I need to let them know who I am to my students. I need to let them know about my past experiences. And this will allow me to get inside of them so that we can truly communicate back and forth. Next slide. So what am I going to do about it? I'm going to work on my issue of being empathetic. I am going to be more supportive and understanding. I need to realize that not everyone's set up and his work is good for the military. I need to understand that not everyone can stay in and retire after 20 years. I need to acknowledge that everyone has different goals, and I need to assist them with that. Next slide, please. I need to avoid outside distractions. I need to find somebody that can take my phone for me while I'm teaching. I need to make sure that the students turn their phones off, to kind of slow down their internet access. I need to improve my listening skills. Next slide, please. I'm going to implement the talker-listener cards, and I'm going to use that more in my daily work that I do with people. I'm going to review the teaching agenda. I'm going to make sure that we have enough time set aside. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, I've kind of discussed what my perceived major barriers are to communications, some of my interpersonal downfalls and what I plan on doing to correct those downfalls. I've developed an action plan so that I can kind of get that into place. And I'm really getting excited about being able to become a listener and a teacher and not a briefer and a counselor. So thank you very much for your time. God bless and have a good day.